packed. Shit. There it is. We're gonna get it out of the box, put it on the bike, and go test it. What's up? Jim here. Welcome back to J Street Moto. Welcome to the channel if it's your first time. I am so freaking excited. The Trask Air Cleaner got delivered yesterday, and it's like Christmas here in my house. As mentioned in the little intro there, we're gonna do a real quick unboxing. I'm gonna put it on the bike. Don't know how much of an installation video it's gonna be. We'll talk about it once we get out in the garage. And then more importantly, we're gonna go ride the bike and we're gonna test it and compare it to the performance results I kind of already captured with the stock air cleaner on the bike. That's the plan for today. So let's get right to it and start unboxing the part. Okay, so before we unbox it, I did have to pick up something, and I mentioned to y'all, I'm not a mechanic, so I don't have all the tools that I might necessarily need. Someone recommended that I get a thread chaser set, so I did. I bought one on Amazon. I'll link the product in the description of this video if you're interested and if you need one, but I thought it would be coming in handy since I'm gonna be taking stuff off the bike, and I might want to clear out the thread locker stuff that Harley puts on their stuff. So this is it. It did come in a cardboard box that was wrapped around it. You had to cut it out of the cardboard box because it did fit exactly. Let's see how they have this thing packed. Wow, okay. So there's a bunch of styrofoam in here. Get rid of those. And then here is the air cleaner. It comes assembled. I know from the installation stuff that I've looked at, I'm gonna have to take it apart because this piece has to go on first and then everything else kind of connects to it. Well, this piece goes on second, then everything else connects to it. It is wrapped in plastic, so yeah. I'll cut it all out of there when I go do the installation out in the garage. Let's put that right here. And then there's a nice little tag here saying, you know, there's hardware underneath that. We have the instructions. We have a sticker. Thank you, Trask. I like stickers. I put them in my saddlebag. Drop it down in the comments and tell me when you get stickers from people, where do you put them? I put mine on the lid of my saddlebag. We've got a cloth. Oh, no. This is the rain sock. Pretty cool. I didn't even know it came with this. So it comes with its rain sock. It's Velcroed, so you just wrap it around it. And then, of course, it has the installation instructions. We've got the 2 rubber O-rings that are used when we install the device. We've got all the mounting hardware, and this is the 90-degree and the tip to plug into the hose for the vent line that runs down to your transmission. And then this is the back plate. That's it. That's all the parts. It has everything in it. Everything is packaged very well. Very impressed with the packaging they did for this. I'll see you out in the garage when we put it on. All right, we got everything out and we're ready to do the job. I brought the instructions out just in case, but I don't think I'm gonna need them, honestly. There's a couple of really good installation videos out there. One's by Sick Bagger and the other's by Trask Performance themselves. I recommend you go watch them because this is probably just gonna be time blasted through. This is a 3/16 Allen to get this cover off. So yeah, now to take the filter out, there's this post here. You're gonna pop that kind of out and then pull this back. And holy shit, I mean, when I told y'all in the last video, that right there is how much air is getting into your bike. You've got this big giant opening up here. They whittle it all down to this tiny little opening. In here, I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's 9/16 there, there's a 9/16 over here, and then the T27s, there's 3 of them. One's up here on top, and there's 2 in here. So we'll go ahead and get the T27s off. Now let's move on to getting the thread locker out of these right here. So I'm going to grab the 1/4 and the 3/8. This is the next piece that's going to go on right here. This is the base plate, and it goes in just like this. Now, that gap right there is where we're going to put the gasket in. But before I put the gasket in, I'm going to put the 90-degree nozzle up here so we can connect it to the hose. A 90-degree nozzle looks like this. It is powder coated on the threads, so it might be a little bit of a challenge for you getting it in there. This one up here is 1/2. So I'm going to take my 1/2 inch wrench and I'm going to turn it until it's facing straight back towards the motor. This piece goes in next. It screws right in there. Again, it's also powder coated. So you're going to put it in there as tight as you can get it by hand, and then use a 7/16 to tighten it the rest of the way in. Last but not least, we're going to take the O-ring. We're going to slide it into here. And you just kind of want to lay it in there and press it down and in. All right, we're done with that right there. Now, we're going to put this hose onto here. The O-ring is still installed. And we're going to slide it right into place and put it on. All right, there it goes. And then we need, there we go. Time to take this apart. This is magnetic, and pay attention to how it's got a flat spot on it, because that's where it goes back in. So you're just going to kind of grab it and pull it out. There's 2 magnets on the back of it. There's 2 magnets in here. This is your velocity stack. And as mentioned, we have another O-ring we got to put in, and this is going to get mounted right here with 3 more of these little 1/4 inch bolts. Oh, these get torqued to 120 inch-pounds. These get torqued to 28 foot-pounds. Those get torqued to 120 inch-pounds. So all of these type screws, which there's 6 of them, they're 120 inch-pounds. These 2 are 28 foot-pounds. And then if you want to torque the ones that hold the filter to here, it's 70 inch-pounds. But I'm probably not going to torque those. I'm just going to shove them in there and be done with it. Now, I know a lot of people have said they're concerned about the clearance on this one for your leg. And I got to say, David had this exact setup on his 2020 Street Glide that he traded in for the Indian that he now has, for the Pursuit that he's got. I've ridden that bike, and it didn't interfere with my leg. I never had an issue with it. David never had an issue with it. Now, that's going to be dependent upon you, how long your leg is, that kind of stuff. But I would say, just as a general rule, you're probably not going to have clearance issues. I got to tell you, I'm really, oh, fuck. Ugh. I'll give you extra credit if you can tell me what I forgot. Forgot to put the velocity stack back in there. That's going to be a problem. So I need to take I do have to take this off after all. Didn't want to, but I got to take it off. I cleaned it off too, and I just didn't think about putting the velocity stack back on it. Let's go ahead and get cleaned off again. Remember, it has a flat spot, so you're just going to kind of rotate it in. This really isn't a hard job. If I hadn't been videoing for y'all and just come out and not had to lay everything out for you to see it, not show it to you, etc., probably would have taken about 20 minutes or so. maybe 30. Instead, it's taken about an hour because I'm trying to video for y'all at the same time that I'm trying to put this thing on without screwing it up. And there it is. It is buttoned up. It's not a bad looking addition to the bike, honestly. Look at that thing. Holy balls. Let's start her up. Why don't we do that? Make sure she starts first off. All right, the installation's done. I'm going to go out for a minute, and I'm going to go out in a few minutes and ride it and test it. For you guys, it'll happen instantaneously. Told y'all this wasn't going to be a detailed installation. It was just going to be kind of just showing you that I did the work and put it on the bike. I did run into a couple of hiccups, but I got them solved. And all in all, it wasn't too hard to put on. It really isn't. Harder making sure you remember shit when you're trying to record a video. I figured I'd give you some shots of it done. I'll see you when I get out there testing it. So I'm taking the bike out for the first ride with the new air breather on it, or air cleaner on it. And I mentioned to y'all, I was going to be comparing it to the stock cleaner to see if there was a difference. Well, a couple days ago, I had a thought, and I figured out, I wonder if this would be a valid test. So I approached it kind of from the standpoint of a dyno, meaning most dynos, they do a pull in a certain gear. And basically you have that gear and you start it at the lowest end that gear can be in from an RPM perspective and run it all the way up. So a couple days back, I went out to this road that I can do it on safely. And I did a couple of pulls in 4th gear where I started at 40 miles an hour and I ran it up to 100 without changing gears. And when I did it all with the 360 camera, so I had one view of the camera on me so that I could see when my wrist broke and I hit the throttle. The other angle on the camera was pointed directly at the speedo and zoomed in on it. And I timed it. And so with the stock breather, I had from that 40 to 100 in a 4th gear pull. The first pull was 10 seconds, 0.23. And I don't know if that's 20/3 of a second or what, but it was 10 seconds, 0.23. It's the same measure I'm going to use for all of them. The second pull I did was 10 seconds, 0.09. Today, now that I've got the installation done, I'm going to go out to the same road and I'm going to do 2 identical pulls. And see when I get home and format them the exact same way and see how much time they were, see whether or not there is a discernible difference in time to go in 4th gear from 40 to 100 between the stock air cleaner and the Trask Performance Assault Air Cleaner. What's up, dudes? How are y'all doing? That's what I'm going to try. I tell you right now, I mean, because in all honesty, I can tell y'all all day that the bike feels different to me, and you can't feel it. So I needed to have something discernible, something measurable that I could show. We'll go do the 2 runs. After we do the 2 runs, I'll do the same thing. I'll put them up there. Now, I won't be able to talk about it while I'm riding. I won't be able to tell y'all that it's faster or slower. A couple things I can tell you, just initial impressions. One is I cannot tell that it's there. It's in terms of feel, it does not get in the way of my leg. A lot of people were curious about that. They were questioning it. They're like, oh man, you know, that it looks good, but looks like it sticks out too far. It's going to interfere with my leg. It does not interfere with my leg. I can also tell you that just from the short scoot from whenever I leave my neighborhood, I usually open it up pretty wide. Just that short little scoot, and there's a little more torque. Don't know how much more torque, but there's a little more torque. It's noticeable. Normally what I'd say is when I'm really sort of getting on it, but not really super getting on it, not trying to. When I shift from 1st to 2nd in a higher RPM, the front end will rear up, but the wheel doesn't come off the ground. When I did it today, leaving the neighborhood, the wheel came off the ground a little bit. So there's definitely a little more torque there. I can't measure for you how much it is. I can just tell you that it feels like there's more torque there than what there was before. That's why I'm doing this measurement. Because in all honesty, torque is the thing you're going to feel the most. Horsepower is what lets you maintain your higher speeds and get to those higher speeds. But torque is what you feel pulling you when you're on the bike. I care more about torque and how torquey the motorcycle is than I do necessarily about horsepower. I honestly do. Because I'm not going to be able to tell a difference in top speed until after I get rid of the restricted Harley ECM. Because there's anything that I put on the bike that is a ride along for that ECM is not going to give me the ability to remove that top speed restriction. And I can also tell you that from the pulls I did, and you can kind of almost see it in the video, you can tell, if you've ever seen a torque curve on a dyno sheet, you can kind of feel it when you do a pull like the ones that I'm doing, when you're just in one gear and you're opening the throttle full and just nailing it until you get where you're going. You can kind of feel where the bike kicks in and starts really pulling you, and then where it kind of drops off. And it's still pulling, but it's not pulling as hard. I can tell you that both runs were almost identical in terms of RPM. 40 miles per hour was at 2,000 RPM. I topped out at 100 miles an hour. I hit the 100 mile an hour mark at 5,100 RPM. I can tell you the feel that I had was around the 3,000 RPM range was when the torque peaked and when I felt it really hit. And it stayed kind of constant until around 4,000, 4,300, 4,400. And then it was still pulling, but it wasn't pulling as hard. And you can tell because the speedo stops going. There's a point in time when you're watching these videos where you can see the speedo it just runs up quick. It starts out, it's running up slow, and it finishes running up slow. That's when the torque is starting to bleed off. That's while it's ramping up and while it's ramping down. At least that's my hypothesis. If you guys know any better, drop it down in the comments if you think I'm wrong for thinking this, but that's what I think. And that's kind of how it felt. You could definitely feel the torque start to go away around the 42, 43, 4,400 RPM range in that fourth gear. And that's when it also started getting slower as I was increasing speed still. I wasn't increasing speed as quickly. I will say this, from a consistency perspective, both of them were exactly the same. The only thing that differed was the time. One was 10.23, one was 10.09. Both of them hit 100 miles an hour at 5,100 RPM, and both of them started at 40 miles per hour at 2,000 RPM. I figured that was a fairly good kind of benchmark that I could use throughout this entire process. You know, I can do it like now. I can go and do the exact same test, only changing one thing and seeing what kind of difference did it make. We'll see whether or not the ECM can make an adjustment for it. I can tell you this, it's not running bad. Let me look real quick and see. It's not even running super hot. I mean, I'm running right at 217 right now. It's 80 degrees out here in Charlotte. There's a little bit of wind, but I've been sitting in traffic, so it doesn't surprise me that the engine's running a little warmer. In all honesty, 217, 218, it's kind of about where it runs all the time. All right, next time you see me, I'm gonna be getting on the road, to do the runs. All right, I'm where I wanted to be. I do not have the 360 camera running yet. I'm going to start it when I'm ready to go. But I want to get, I'm going to look at traffic flow and shit before I do that. This is going to be a fourth gear pull. 1, 0. It felt like the same. It did. I don't know that there's a difference. Bike's definitely running a little hot. It's just as windy today as it was the other day, but it's a little warmer. The other day when I did this test, it was probably 60 degrees, 63 degrees. Today it's in the 80s. So it's a little bit warmer, and that might affect the numbers. I'm not making excuses. I'm going to judge it honestly. That's what I'm going to do. Said I was going to do that. That's what I'm going to do. So let's get ready to do another one. Slow down, get down to 40. Get down to 40, get down to 40, get down to 40, get down to 40, get down to 40. it is. That's 2 runs. And you know now, well, I don't. You know in the video whether or not it did better or not. I can tell you the torque curve felt a little bit different. Not very noticeable, I guess is a good way to put it, but it did feel slightly different. I don't know if it made a difference or not. I really don't. Too early to tell. You guys will know because you've seen it in the video already. But this is a test I'm going to repeat over and over again when I add new stuff to the bike. Now at some point after I'm done with the whole build, I might take it to a dyno just to get numbers so I've got something that I can show y'all. I know what the stock numbers are on this bike to the rear wheel. There have been enough channels out there that have done them on bikes that weren't modified at all that I know kind of where it starts. Certainly know where the number is that Harley says to the crank. I'm talking to the rear wheel. So I figure I can take it to a tuner and compare, or take it to a dyno and compare those numbers to what are stock for this motorcycle. And I'm not going to be, you know, that will be with the tune from the tuner. I'm not gonna have it dyno tuned before I do that pull. I want to do a pull without it being dyno tuned. And maybe, you know, the guy will look at it and go, we can probably get a little more out of it. We maybe can get a little more out of it. I really want to try and do it with just what's available to me in the tuner. So let's see, are we still running hot? Nah, drop back down. That's good. I knew it's just we were sitting in traffic. Drop it down in the comments. How do you guys tell? Do you measure it at all? When you change something on your bike, do you do a measurement before and a measure after? Other than a dyno, do you do some kind of test before and some kind of test after just to see, is the bike behaving differently? Did I get a gain or is it behaving worse? I'm just curious. How do you guys, what do you do to measure it? This is a very straightforward measurement that I did. Plain and simple. The same speed to the same speed. How long does it take me to get there from point A to point B? I think that's a very good all-around measurement for overall bike performance as I'm changing things on it. If you guys disagree, tell me. You know, drop it down in the comments and tell me. Thank you guys for watching. Do me a favor, like, subscribe, click the notification bell, share it with your friends. All that stuff's free to you, and it does help the channel. Always ride safe.
Yeah, ready? 1, 2, 3, shoot. Ah. Asshole.
Really? Peace out, bitches!